Alright, so today we're going to be looking at a couple openers. This is the first one, and you're probably thinking that, well, this is the 8365 from my garage, but you would be wrong, because that 8365 is right here. Yes, I got another 8365, that way I have my own. This one is actually an 8365W-267 with Wi-Fi. May 15th, 2019. So this one, when I got it, was the motor, this was kind of an odd one, the motor was randomly stopping. And it didn't matter if I reset the limits, reset the force, whatever, it kept stopping and acting like it was tripping the force. Now what I found the problem to be was actually a few loose wires on the wiring harness, which is kind of odd, but I discovered it was a wiring issue because it was on the way down, that normally if it thinks the force is getting tripped, it will stop and go back up and then beep and flash. But this one, what was happening is on the way down, the motor would stop, and like a second after it stopped, the relay would turn off, and then the relay for opening the door would turn on for a second and then back off, and then it would act like it was tripping the force. Which made me, I mean, what am I trying to say? It made me look at the wiring harness a little more, and sure enough, there were a few loose wires, so I was able to fix that, and this thing does work now. Yeah, so, kind of see on the back there. I didn't get any accessories with this. There probably were some there, but I didn't want to dig around and find them, because I already have stuff for it. I'm using this button. This is the button from the 8155, which, if this is a button from the 8155, and you can see we have an 880 LM here once again. If you look up there, you're thinking, is that the 8557? No. Is it the 8550? Also no. This is a LiftMaster model 8587WL. This is another one I found. This one's actually in pretty rough shape. Which it was made in February 8th, 2021, so it's not that old, but it is in pretty rough shape. This thing was probably used pretty heavily, I'm assuming. Either that or it was on a really big door. I want to see how many cycles this has on it. Come on. And it's got, well, 6,000 cycles in 2 years. That's actually quite a few in just a couple of years, so looks like this thing was used kind of heavily, and it was probably also on a pretty heavy door. But this one, when I got it, this one got rained on, and, well, it was kind of like what happened to the B970. There's the 8155, by the way. I didn't want to leave that one set up as my main opener because it was loud and grindy. But this thing was having the same kind of problem as the B970, that it ran, but it couldn't run a full cycle without setting the force off. Didn't matter how many times I reset the limits and force, it would always trip the force when I got to the very end of the close cycle. And what I found out the problem to be, the same thing, there was stuff inside of the travel module on this one. That's not the only other thing that is kind of messed up on this. I don't know what's with the motor. Also, you can see it looks like the gear and sprocket have been replaced in this thing too, because the chassis is not powder coated, but the sprocket is. And also this one has old style light lenses. Not going to pick it up to show you now, but the motor on this thing really doesn't sound all that good. Something vibrates a lot on it. I think it's just the motor, and it's making bearing noises, and yeah, I don't know what kind of door this thing was running on, but it had to have been something pretty big. So yeah, so that's the 8587WL, and I mean, you can see that sprocket up there is kind of sort of chewed up, and this is the chain spreader from it. It's a little bit different than the square rail ones because of the dual sprocket. You can see it also has some wear on it. Looks like it's actually started to crack a little bit too. Yeah, I want to know what kind of door this thing was on, because anyways, I guess we'll just go ahead and run these ones for you. We'll start with the 8587. I did decide to hook up my lock to it, by the way. So here we go. So yeah, the motor in this thing really does not sound that good, and I'm not sure if you can hear the bearing noises, but there are bearing noises. Run it back down. For the first little bit of it closing, it actually sounds decent, but then it just goes back to being loud and vibrating again. I don't know why it sounds that way, but alright, we'll go ahead and run the 8365W. This one actually isn't too loud. Run it down. So yeah, you know what, run each of these one more time and that'll be it. Here's the wall button. Alright, so there you have it. That's the 8587WL and the 8365W-267. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.